is going on, everybody out there in Facebook land and on YouTube land? So listen, here's the deal about today. All right, I'm trying to fill the role and wear multiple hats on the show. So I am, one, hosting the Make Money and Have Fun show today, but I'm also playing audio engineer and technician. So if you can't see, I got this new microphone for the show. So if you can hear me out there, just kind of put some comments down in the comments section. Give it some thumbs up. Let me know that I can be heard. And if you hear that beeping going on, it's simply because this microphone is picking up everything in here. But I promise you, it's being worked on, and we are still going to have a blast regardless of all of that that's going on. So you know the deal. You're coming back to the Make Money and Have Fun show, where I'm interviewing authors, speakers, entrepreneurs, coaches, consultants, millionaires, billionaires, investors, you name it. All the coolest people are coming on this show. Well, this month I decided that I needed an even bigger challenge in my life. So I'm doing something cool that I'm calling Author Month out there. And Author Month basically just means that every single day this month, I'm going live with a different author. And today, I got a really cool dude that I got to introduce you to. But first, let's remember where we are.
My motto in life is make money and have fun. I'm on a mission to show everyone how to make money, yeah, and have fun. I'm all about making money and having fun.
All right, so here's the deal. For those of you that don't know, I actually am an author of not one, but 2 books right now. So I've written one book when I was 21 years old. I wrote a book called The Revolutionary Mindset. When I was 24 years old, I noticed that all my friends around me had at least 2 books, and I was like, I ain't going to be the only one without 2 books. So I wrote a second book called The Thought Bible, which is basically just a collection of all of my blog posts that I had written for those 4 years. And for me, it was such a cool journey. It was such a cool process to go through being a writer, being an author, and doing it in so many different ways. And I got to tell you a little secret. I got another book coming out very, very soon. It's actually coming out this spring around March, April time. And the title, I'm not going to tell you the exact title, but basically it's almost named the same as everything else in my brand. I mean, think about it. I have the Make Money and Have Fun show. I have a Make Money and Have Fun course. I have a Make Money and Have Fun mastermind. I have a Make Money and Have Fun coaching program. So again, I'm not going to tell you what the title of the book is, but you might be able to guess because of that. So, with that being said, I need to introduce you to my brand new friend. I actually just met this guy. So this is the super cool thing about social media, about making connections online. I literally just sent out a blast post on Facebook and I said, hey, I'm looking for authors who are super cool, super fun, and they want to come on my show and hang out with me. And guy, Layne Ihde, I apologize if I'm pronouncing your last name incorrectly, by the way. We'll talk about that in a minute. Layne reached out and he was like, I want to be on your show. And I was like, let me see here. I gotta check this guy out. So I went on his Facebook page and he's doing all kinds of cool stuff, hanging out with cats in different cat shops and writing children's books. And he's got a rap video just like mine. It's not quite as good as mine, but he's got one as well. So I was like, dude, you got to be on here. So let's all put our hands together for Mr. Layne Ihde. What's going on, man? Exactly. Can you hear him clapping for you?
Yes, I can. How you doing, Fred? Glad to be
great,
here.
Man. I'm so glad to have you here, man. This is super cool.
It really is.
So, Layne, tell us about yourself, man. We were chatting a little bit beforehand, but tell the audience, who are you, what do you do, and what makes your beard look so cool?
Lots of manicuring. No, just kidding.
That's what I figured.
I started going bald a few years ago, so I was like, and I'm pretty vain, and so I just like, if I don't have hair up here, I need to have hair down here.
Yeah, you got to balance it out.
Yeah, I mean, you have to balance it out.
My problem was I was 22 years old and I looked like I was 13, so I'm like, I got to grow a beard.
You do look very young, and I mean, I'm way older than you, but when I was in my 20s, I looked like I was in my teens as well. So I feel your pain.
Thanks, man. And I'm not even Asian. I mean, I feel like Asians are the ones that don't age, but like for me, it's like I don't get it.
Yeah. So anyway, thanks for having me on once
Of
again.
course.
I'm Layne Ihde is how you pronounce that. And
Wow. See, I
seriously,
knew I did it wrong.
do not sweat it. I mean, I have people
I can kick you out and bring you
that
back
have
in.
no. I've had people that have known me for years. I even joke around and say my own grandma gets my last name wrong, but that's not true. But anyway, it's a very hard name. IHDE. That combination of letters doesn't look like it's supposed to go together. So I do not fault anyone for getting the name wrong. So
Thank you. Thank you. I get it all the time too. If you can't tell, right, with my last name there,
Posimo,
it's Posimo.
Posimo.
See?
Good Italian boy.
Yep, you know it.
All right,
So
cool.
I'm right there with you, man. I feel your pain.
All right. Well, I guess I'll just jump right in and give you a little background on myself.
Yeah, tell us who you are. What do you do?
I am beaming to you from Nashville, Tennessee, Music City, USA. I've lived here for about 20 years. I am a professional musician. Back in the day, late 90s, early 2000s, I was an aspiring rock star. I fronted 3 different indie rock bands. Was a songwriter. I still am a songwriter, but back then I was a serious songwriter, trying to get my songs on radio, which anybody listening under about 30, you probably don't even know what radio is, but that like predated Spotify and Pandora and all that. But anyway, not to bore you with all that ups and downs of MP3s and streaming and the industry just not knowing what was going on. Got a little bit older. I'm like, I'm not going to be, Shawn Mendes or, the latest rock band, Machine Gun Kelly or something. So what can I do creatively? And I just love writing stories. So songs are stories put to music. I've always written sci-fi and fantasy stories. Love doing that. And I started sharing them with my friends. And I noticed just as I wrote them, I thought they were getting good. But sometimes you're in that bubble. And of course, like your mom tells you you're good and whatever else. But my friends started saying, dude, like these are like good. They're as good as anything I'm buying at Barnes and Noble. So I started thinking, oh, why don't I try my hand at that? And I'm also a big, if you can see this, it's always reversed to the screen. This stack right here, that's all Dr. Seuss books. He's probably my number one. That sounds cliche, but for me, it is not.
I love it. That's awesome.
His sing-song style, I would sit in our local library and read Dr. Seuss books for hours and just loved them. So fast forward to a couple of years ago, I thought, what would happen if I just tried my hand at writing a children's book? And I did it, and it was hard. It's harder than people think. They think, oh, I have an idea about an animal or something, and I just only have to write like 30 pages with 2 lines on a page. Let me tell you, it's like writing a song. To get to introduce that, to have a memorable character, to have something happening that makes the reader, especially the child, interested, have some sort of problem, resolve it, wrap it all up in a nice little bow, and have awesome illustrations. It's to do a good book, an artful book, a book that means something and can, in my opinion, stand the test of time or be referred to as a classic. It's more difficult than you would think. So I tried my hand at it. This was the first book. I'll kind of do what you did here. The first book came out 2 years ago, Pippin' No Lickin'. And the book that I'm really kind of promoting today on your show, even though we're just having a conversation, is Pippin' No Drippin'. And you can kind of tell I have this, it's not straight alliteration, but there's always a mouthfeel sing-songy, Pippin' No Lickin', Pippin' No Drippin'. That goes on with the books. And so, and this cat actually is based off a cat that used to live with me about 10 years ago named Pippin. And that's where I got the idea, the genesis for the book series, when I decided, what do I want my content to be? The cat was awesome. He would come to me like a dog. I could call him, which is very rare for cats. He actually liked to play in the snow. I could throw snowballs at him and he'd like bat him around. And he was really great. So I thought, what if I wrote him? Anthropomorphization is what we authors call when you take an animal, but you make it like a human. And I was like, what if I made Pippin like a 6 or 7-year-old kid that goes to elementary school and kind of gets into trouble and has adventures and friends? Because those are the types of stories that I was drawn to as a kid. And so, the second book is out. I actually just got done with the manuscript for a third one called Pippin y Carmen, because I'd been hearing from schools that they really want content that is bilingual. There is a heavy Spanish contingent moving into the schools, and they a lot of them don't speak English right away, and they need to be learning it at the same time. I also wanted to address, some of the tensions there that comes between races, and when people come to school and they see somebody that looks different or sounds different than they do, how do you navigate that in a positive way? And I'm really pumped about this book because I think it's going to do great as well. So try to put that out in another year or so. But I've rambled on long enough. Did I say anything that prompted some questions that you knew more about?
We gotta roll back to talking about writing a kid's story. So it's funny, for whatever reason, Layne, and you probably understand this as a musician, I've always felt like for myself, I've been like a quote unquote natural born speaker, right? Which I even hate saying that because it's like so cheesy. But regardless, for whatever reason, I've always been pretty good at speaking, and I've gotten so proficient that people would actually come to me and ask me to teach them how to speak. And so I realized what you're talking about. Every story has 3 pieces to it. It has a setup, a conflict, and a resolution. And like you said, to be able to put that in a shorter story arc, in a book that only has 10, 20 pages and 2 lines per page, I can see how that can be intimidating. And it's funny because I related it back to before all this. I used to be a karate instructor. I used to teach martial arts, and I used to teach 3.5 to 5.5 years old was one of the age groups that I taught. And it was like that same thing where it's like you got a 30-minute class. You got to keep them entertained, engaged. You got to keep them active, and you got to move them just enough that they're exercising, but not so much that they get burnt out in a sense. And it's like that perfect even medium.
Yeah.
I guess my question in that would be like, what did you do to kind of combat that and get over the hump of writer's block in that situation and that sort of stuff?
Well, I guess that's what I'm saying with having been a songwriter for 20 years, or maybe at that point 17 years. It's interesting that you can apply this to sports or whatever. If you do one discipline, but it has skill sets that apply to another discipline, I really feel that I cut my teeth songwriting, and I kind of had to figure out my strengths and weaknesses, and rhyming and lyrical structure and all the things we talked about as far as the setup and the conflict and the arc and the resolution. So I basically feel that I did most of that during my songwriting, and then writing my really crappy early science fiction and fantasy stories a long time ago, so that by the time I got to the children's book, what I did was I went back to my screen's mirrored. I went back to my Dr. Seuss books because those are classic, and I actually analyzed them. I'd never sat down and analyzed what he was doing with his setup, his conflict, his resolution. And then I went to some other current authors that I feel their books are very artful, and you'll hear me use that word artful because look, you go into Barnes & Noble in the kids section, there's 1,000 kids books in there. And this is no offense to other authors out there. You may have put your blood, sweat, and tears in it. In my opinion, there's a small percentage of those that are artful. It's anybody can put 2 lines down per page and draw a dog. But what makes those connect with not only you, but that kid, and make them want to, and this is basically the equivalent of like being a musician and seeing somebody sing your songs back to you at a show. When I have a parent tell me when their child first gets a Pippin book, the child brings me Pippin every night for that first month or so. You know how kids are, they go in phases with what they like. So when I hear more often than not, the kid, Pippin, but at bedtime, and they want to read this every night, sometimes multiple times. Again, I know I'm doing something right. So I sat down, and so giving you a long answer, by analyzing the Dr. Seuss books, other writers, I just kind of took that flow. I had to make it my own. And then I actually put it out there to some test groups. I don't have kids personally, but I have a lot of friends with kids. I have some godchildren. I let them test it. And I said, look, be brutal with Uncle Layne here. Did this hold your attention? Did you like it? What didn't you like about it? What did you like about it? And then you make small tweaks based on that, because I think a lot of us as artists, I don't care if it's public speaking like you do, or a musician or a writer, we have like this imposter syndrome where we think am I really as good as I think I am? Or, everyone else is better than I am. Are they? And you have to, and so you kind of keep your artistic material to yourself, and you don't want to have it critiqued, because that hits you personally, and then it spirals you down into like, oh, I suck, But to be honest with yourself and to get better at what you do, you have to put it out there and let people critique you. So that's what I did. I'm happy with these books. I think that they will stand the test. I think when these kids that have these books, if they keep them long enough and give them to their kids, I hope that I wrote them in a timeless way, that nothing in here is super dated, that you can't pick this up in 20 years and still have the story resonate with you.
I love that. I love that so much, because it's funny, because I've always tinkered with the idea of writing a kid's book. I mean, a lot of what I write and what I share and talk about is steeped in personal development, which typically is run through a lens more so for adults, I think, in many cases. But then sometimes I see people that kind of break it down to a kid's level, and that I find so fascinating, just because, like you said, it's a different process, it's a different way of storytelling and stuff like that. What do you think, like, if someone wanted to transition from writing, like, quote unquote adult books, or books that an adult would read, to a kid's book, what do you think, like, would be needed in that transition? Like, obviously, like, you need, like, an illustrator and stuff like that, I would imagine. But what else do you think would be part of that process?
Well, the first thing I said about reading, remember. I mean, you're younger than I am, so you're closer to it. Remember books that you read when you were a kid. Go grab 3 or 4 or 5 of them. Go jump on Amazon, buy them. Most of the soft cover books only cost like $10. Read back through them. Number one, see if that magic or whatever you remembered that you loved as a kid, if it still resonated with you. You're an adult now. You're not going to get super excited about a cat or the Berenstain Bears or whatever. But if you can read it and you're like, yeah, this is what, then go online and search like top 10 kids books for 2020 or 2021. Get a couple, read a couple, go to your library, get books that are hot right now that kids are reading, and read those. See what the similarities are between those classics that you loved and those. See if the commonalities, and then start figuring out what the elements that you think make those books so attractive to kids that they want to pick those books up. You alluded to the other thing too, with picture books, the words and the pictures go hand in hand. If you don't have good illustrations, or you might have good illustrations, but if they don't fit the manuscript, they don't realize, like my illustrator, Linda Pierce, just killed it. I mean, Pippin she drew him how I saw him in my head. And so that merging of the words and the pictures just come together and make the book that much more impactful. So I guess what I'd say is research books, figure out what you like. If you've got kids in your life, ask them what they like. Do you like Pete the Cat? Do you like, whatever the latest books are? What do you like about it? The pictures. What do you like about it? His adventures. And you do a little bit of research on the front end, and then you start to mess around with, I call it the lumpy clay. You have this kind of shapeless idea for a story, and then you start telling it, and maybe it gets a little weird because there's something that sticks out here. And slowly, as you let people read it, you start molding it. And you're like, that's not good. That's what my old English teacher used to call a shaggy dog. That means too much fur. It's not needed. Cut it off, mold this. This could be said in a better way. And you're constantly, this is where the songwriter skill set worked. You might obsess over like one single line, or like one line into the second one, and get it just to fit perfectly. And, that might take you coming to it and then putting it away and then coming back to it a couple of days later or a week later, and that's what I would instruct anybody that wants to write a children's book to start with.
I think that's perfect. I mean, it seems like really, you kind of nailed this. Like we mentioned before, I want to talk about some of your different marketing techniques that you've done. Because me as an entrepreneur, I'm always looking for, the thing that'll go viral, the thing that'll catch on, the thing that will get engagement. I mean, I put up 15 posts a day, and 2 of them catch on. And I'm like, okay, what did I do wrong with the other 13? What works with those? But you actually made a rap video about my hometown, because I'm actually from Philadelphia.
Oh, nice.
So I actually didn't know you were from Nashville either. Nashville is one of the places that I want to travel to. I hear it's like awesome over there.
It is, and it's really, I mean, for better or worse, the locals are not super happy about it, although the economy is booming. Not this last year, but hopefully it'll open up again. The last 5 years, I've been here for 20 years. I'm actually from outside of Chicago. You can probably tell my northern accent. I get made fun of down here sometimes. You want some applesauce and some sausage and go see the Cubs. But I've been down here long enough, I can call it home. But it's really grown over like the last 5 years. It's just the hotel, food, tourism, live music on Broadway. It's just, it's a pretty fantastic place. So yeah, I encourage you when you can get over here. And we're actually a little more opened up than a lot of other states are. So, you know, people are wearing masks for the most part, being cool about stuff. You can still come experience a lot of stuff. It just usually closes earlier and lets less people in. So some of the restaurants are fantastic. But anyway, I'm meandering right now. You said you're from Philly.
I'm cool with it. I'm enjoying this. I'm like, man, I'll go hang out with Layne in Nashville.
Yeah, come on down, man. We'll go out and
we'll read a little Pippin.
Yeah, we'll read a little Pippin. But anyway, to the marketing stuff, I heard you speaking about that. I'm the same way. We talked about a little about this backstage before we went live on air.
Right.
It's that right now, any of you content creators out there, I don't care if you're a graphic designer, an artist, a stand-up comedian, an actor, a painter, a musician, an author, the internet in the last 20 years has done something amazing in that any of us have just a free channel into anyone's living room or laptop or iPad or phone. Content is everywhere. Anybody can put content out. So there is this, no matter how good your product is, and this is something that David says from Morgan James, nobody cares about your book. You hear that and you go, ow, that really kind of hurts. And you know what? Since I've been out there in the book shops and the stores, that's true. Nobody cares about your book. Nobody cares about your song. Nobody cares about your painting, because there's thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of other content out there vying for their attention. So the whole marketing thing is, I'm like, what different I call them prongs. Maybe that's a weird word, but how can I use Facebook? How can I use Instagram? I'm actually still trying to use TikTok. It's been kind of hilarious because I haven't done it very well yet. How can I grab somebody? And this is the tough thing about kids' books too, is because kids are generally on YouTube Kids because they need to be in a safe space, and I'm totally all for that. So the other problem with kids' books is that I'm going through the primary buyer, which is the parent or the teacher, so that they can get the book to the kid who is the ultimate end user. So there's like a double problem in there. So I am trying to create content and things like I did with my Fresh Prince of Bel-Air video to grab their attention for someone to say, hey, this is number one, hey, I'm paying attention to this other than all the other children's books out there because this is different. What is this guy doing? I did an interview with my local Today show here in Nashville at a cat cafe, and that got like huge response. And I had people reaching out to me through Facebook. Hey, I just saw you on, because they thought the whole cat cafe was cool. So that's how I draw them in. And then hopefully, for how hard my name is to spell, they might Google my name.com, which you can look on your screen right there, LayneIhde.com. That's kind of like my base of operations. You can go there, and from there, you can go to YouTube and find Pippin the Cat, and you can go to my Facebook page. And I've got all different kinds of videos out there and interviews that I've done. And I hope ultimately that funnels people to the books and that they get those books to their kids, and that their kids love them and they tell their friends, and it's kind of a perpetual thing so that I can keep creating great content, and it benefits the parents and the kids.
Yeah, I definitely get that. I mean, it's so hard out there. It's hard because, like you said, you're basically jumping into this giant competition. Especially today, like you mentioned earlier with authors, and I forget if this was backstage or during the show, but it's like really self-publishing has become easier and easier. I mean, even look at right now, show production has become easier and easier. I mean, I had this idea back when I was 19 years old, but I don't want to do audio editing and all this stuff. I mean, I could barely set up this microphone today. So it's like, if I can click and put out, this high quality show, I'm going to do it. Same thing with with self-publishing a book. I mean, my first book, these are both self-published, both of these, you know.
But you're putting your third one out with Morgan James, and what that's going to do is cause people hopefully to come back to the first two. I call it the snowball effect, and I've heard other people talk about that too, is that you can't, so many people, authors think, I got this great idea, no one's ever had it before, you know, and I'm going to put it out there and I'm going to sit back and I'm going to turn into J.K. Rowling or whatever, the Tony Robbins or whatever the equivalent for your particular niche is. And it's just not the case. You have to keep creating relevant content and putting it out there, and then, you know, people will get back to it. It sounds like we're even though we're on different tracks, we're kind of doing a similar thing.
Yeah, I think that we're in different spaces, but there's the same, there's a similar trajectory, I think, any place that you're in. Like you just mentioned, real easy. You know, if you're a book writer, your top dog is you know, Tolkien or it's J.K. Rowling or whoever. Right. In my space, it's more, you know, Tony Robbins, Grant Cardone, those types of people.
Yeah.
And so, you know, like you said, the way that I always like to think of it is, you know, how did a millionaire become a millionaire? He started by getting $1. How did, you know, the influencer become an influencer? He started by getting one follower, you know, and it's that, you know, trajectory that you talk about. You know, it's like when I have 100 episodes of my show, I might have people start going back to my first episode. And then my first episode all of a sudden has 1 million views. And it's like, what the heck? I've been doing this for 5 years. And it's the same idea. I mean, to me, I always like to use the phrase throwing paint at the wall. I'm like, let me just throw this paint at the wall and see what happens here.
Fred, do you know what I say? I say throw darts at the dartboard. That's the exact same thing.
That's hysterical. Yeah. And it's like, you know, there's strategies, and then there's just, I guess, like, you can call it like omnipresence, if you will. You know, it's like you can just keep throwing it out there and try to be strategic around it as much as you can. But like you said, at the end of the day, it just comes down to the amount of content you're putting out. And as long as you're putting out good content. I mean, hey, I had this jacket made just for this show.
Nice.
It's like, you know, what the heck? I'm trying everything that I can and seeing where it goes from there. But, you know, I'm just having a blast throughout the whole time. Is that a cat right here with you?
Yes, so that's actually Pip. I got a new cat. She's kind of standoffish, but it's funny when she comes and walks around. I like to grab her and put her on screen because especially when I do virtual school visits, the kids love to see the real. Now, she's not the real Pippin. She's Pip, but she looks exactly like Pippin from the book. She's black with a red collar, and she's got a little white bib, so the kids really get a kick out of it. I don't know where she just went. She just came up and meowed, but then she went off to get some food. But anyway,
that's so funny. So have you, in terms of like cat and dog person, have you always been a cat person your whole life?
Yeah, I like dogs. It's weird. There's people that are cat and dog people, but normally I've found people either gravitate you know, to one or the other. I just from reading too, I find that a lot of writers and people like that seem to, not that they don't gravitate to dogs, but they seem to gravitate to cats. Cats are so, dog people usually complain because they're just like, they don't do what you want to do and all this stuff. You know, a dog, once you've established that you're the master and you give them food for the first time and don't beat them, they're just your best buddy. I mean, whatever you want to do, they want to do it any time of the day. They're just cats. You have to cultivate a relationship with them, and it's actually hard. I've had cats that and I'm still building a relationship with Pip. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 years. She's only like 2 to build up that trust, because the relationship with a cat is very reciprocal. There's something about that I like. I don't mind the work, and they're neurotic. They're crazy. They're always doing weird stuff, and they're just nuts. I mean, there's something quirky about them that my personality is just attracts to them. So I've always been a cat guy.
I totally get it. My girlfriend is a big animal person, and she right now she has 2 dogs and a cat, and it's funny because I'm slightly allergic to cats. In full disclosure. But I love my girlfriend, so I'm like, you know, grin and bearing it in a sense. But it's also annoying because, like, the cat is, like you said, it's so fun and friendly and kind of like, wants to create something there. Like it's always approaching me, and it's like, hey, what are we doing here? Like, are you petting me? Are you, what's going on? It does that whole thing that cats do. Like, and I like the way that you put it. I think that there's more of a cultivation with cats. Whereas with dogs, it's like they just get into a pattern, and then they repeat that pattern over and over again. You're just like, okay, you're gonna bark now. Okay, you're gonna love me now. Like,
yeah. I mean, I'm gonna give you a brief sociological or animal anthropological thing because I read up on it and I love it. So a relationship with mankind, I'm not being sexist, mankind and dogs, which are, developed from wolves, and how that whole situation happened is dogs accept you as part of the pack, and you are the head of the pack. You're the alpha, they're the beta. There's no, and that's not, it is a master servant relationship, and it can be a great one because everyone loves their dogs. A cat relationship, the only pack type cat is a lion that lives in a pride. Every other species of cat, once they're weaned from their mother, they're solitary. So this weird thing that's happened with cats over thousands of years domesticated with us, now they don't think that we're cats. They know we're different. But what they're doing is their relationship is they're saying, I accept you, you're accepting me, and it's a reciprocal relationship. It is a completely different relationship than the relationship between a human and their dog. And wow. My personality, I like that sort of relationship.
So, interesting. That's actually so cool. I never knew that. Yeah. Look at that. See, you learn something new every day. So do you just have Pip, the one cat, or do you have multiple?
No, I have Lizzie. I call her my bowling ball. She's 16 pounds. She's a white tabby, and she is beautiful. She has beautiful green. You know what I should do for these interviews? I'm just thinking on the fly. I need to have like pictures that I can put up of them so that people can see them. Because a lot of people, I have people that actually tune in or even buy my books that don't have kids. They just love cats. So okay. The cat is a draw. So, but anyway, Lizzie, she's probably sleeping somewhere. I don't know where she went. But yeah, we have two. I'd like to have more. My wife says, as a joke, she will not be outnumbered in her own home. I probably, all things being equal, could have 4 around and just love it. I love them like when you're watching a movie on the couch and they're just lying on you and snuggling and everything. So, but yeah, we just have 2.
I love that. So is authoring and music the only thing that you're doing now, or you got anything else going on?
Well, it's interesting. It's the part of the author thing is, and everything just gets woven together. So my degree is in music education. And I went to a liberal arts school. So I took all the education courses right along with all the elementary school teachers out there that, specialized in history or whatever they specialized in. I just focused on music, but I took all the education classes. When I got out of school, I substitute taught for 2 years. I substitute taught everything because let's face it, there's usually only one music room, or if you get to the high school level, one band room. The band director is not sick or has to do stuff as much as all the other general discipline teachers. So I have substitute taught every subject and every grade level, kindergarten through 12th grade. So as I got into the author thing, and this year it's really been decimated, which is really sucked because I love going into the schools. The second prong is going into the schools and presenting. I go into the schools and present. I read my books. I take my guitar. I play music for them. But it's really an educational thing as well as entertaining because we talk about creative writing. We talk about, you were talking about the whole thinking about writing a children's book. And I meant to circle back to that with child development. There's a huge thing going on in the schools right now called SEL. And it's probably something you're going to want to look up. So if you want to jot that down, it's called socio-emotional learning. And it's a huge touchstone right now about that personal human development of kids, not just teaching them 1, 2, 3s and ABCs and all that stuff, which is important, but developing them as a full person. And so when I go into schools, there's a whole educational component that, because of my background and my degree, and then, having taught that I love doing as well. So I would say those are the 3 things: education, authoring, and music. I've actually just picked up a 4th thing, which people probably think is crazy. I have drawn a a lot. I'm not great, but I think that there's a spark there. And so I've actually started, I got a new iPad for Christmas and an Apple Pencil, which is amazing technology. And there's an app called Sketchpad. And I've actually been sharpening my skills illustrating, because the next goal is I have a lot of manuscripts. I'd love to work with different illustrators. I would love at some point to do my own book start to finish, which is me writing the manuscript and also doing the illustrations. So I guess the fourth thing you can add in there is that I'm trying to develop my illustration skills.
Amazing, amazing. The funny thing is, I became a speaker because I can't draw. I mean, I can barely draw a stick figure, Layne. It's bad. It's bad. It's actually really funny because my girlfriend is an architect, so she's basically drawing all day on software, and she like so here I'll show you real quick. So like this is my notebook, like this is my entrepreneurial handwriting, as you can see, like it's just chicken scratch basically, and her notebook is like categorized and neat and organized and three-dimensional and like non three-dimensional, like volumetric, like it's just like this like work of art. And I'm like, holy moly. To me, for whatever reason, I could never transpose the image in my head to the fine motor skills of writing.
Yeah, and that's all of us. We have it's there, it can be cultivated, but that's the big thing. Man, we're getting philosophical here. Whenever I hear someone say, you can do whatever you want to if you put your mind to it, I'm like, no, that's not true. There are people that are not good at drawing, not good at singing. They might spend hours doing something, and they might get better from their starting point. I'm never going to be a point guard in the NBA. I'm 5'8", and I'm better with a soccer ball at my feet than shooting. It doesn't. I'm not going to be. It's just, so what it takes is finding the passions that we all have, and then being really honest with ourselves and saying, I think I have that nugget of whatever can turn into, but I don't know if I'm on this thing, but maybe, so you get what I'm saying.
So
we're good at.
It's funny because I made it really easy. I created this brand called Make Money and Have Fun, and that's exactly what I talk about. It's about alignment. You ever go to the chiropractor, Layne? Right?
I haven't, fortunately, knock on computer, but I know about it, and I've gotten some massages. So but I know what it is.
Sure, it's this idea of alignment, right? What I'm helping people do is create alignment in their all the aspects of their life, their physical life, their mental, emotional, spiritual, and financial life. And what you basically just mentioned is that there's an alignment between talent and skill. They're two separate things, but we got to draw that straight line between them, right? When people are trying to get good at something that they don't have a skill in, it makes it much harder. And in some cases, it's more just spinning your wheels than it is actually creating progress in that sense. And that's why the book is Make Money and Have Fun. It's not an either or. It's this idea that we can do both. I'm here talking to a guy who loves cats and writes children's books for a living. Like, it could be as obscure as you want it to be, or it could be as mainstream as you want it to be. But if we're making money and having fun, in my opinion, that's it at that point. Game over. Yeah. So you're in the right place. I love it, man. Layne, this has been awesome, man. How can people get in contact with you, and what's next for you, my man? What do you got going on?
Well, like I said, immediately, I hope the elementary schools open back up so I can get in there and interact with kids and take Pittman to them. But I know that has to be done in a safe and methodical way. I think I'm an eternal optimist and hopeful. I think it's gonna start happening, if not the end of this school year, the beginning of the next school year. So that's one. I'm going to continue developing Pippin y Carmen, this kind of Spanish bilingual book, which will be the third book in the Pippin series. And I actually just finished, several months ago, my first novel. It's a Christmas fantasy novel. I love Christmas. I totally geek out and get into it. And I love all the movies and books that go along with kids having magical adventures. And so I tried my hand at it, and I finished it, and I've put it out there to adults and kids. The reviews coming back have been pretty phenomenal. People are pumped, and they want to see what happens next. So I've got a friend of mine that's a script writer in LA working on an outline right now, And then hopefully when we get that done, I'd love to pitch it to Netflix or Hulu or original Christmas content right now, as Hallmark has shown everybody in that demographic with the romance movies. It's huge right now. I don't know if you watch Christmas movies, but Christmas Chronicles 1 and 2 have been new movies that have come out on Netflix that I thought were fantastic. And that's kind of like right in the demographic that I'm aiming for with my book called A Holiday in Higginsville. So those are probably the three things: get back in the schools, keep developing the Pippin brand, and try to pitch my new novel.
That already sounds awesome. I mean, I love it. For me, I'm thinking one of my next steps might be filmmaking too, and going into that kind of space. I got to tell you this story. I had a friend of mine who is a little bit older than I am, and just as entrepreneurial as I am. And he's like, he made this movie a little while back, and he's like, so I went to pitch it to Netflix, and I had this genius idea. I said, I'm just going to show up at their main studio, right? So he just flies out there and shows up, and he's like, yeah, it was a little bit too abrupt for them, and they kicked me out. But it was it was a really experience. I'm like, that's hysterical. So I wouldn't recommend doing it that way. If you're
security. There's a guy out here with.
It was funny because he's like, I got like halfway in, and then he was like sitting down with the main boss, and they're like, "Who the heck are you?" He's like, "Oh, I just flew here to tell you about this movie that I want you to produce." And they're like, "Go home."
That's hilarious. Awesome, man, thank you so much for having me on. This is a blast.
Absolutely, dude. This has been so much fun. How can people get in contact with you, Layne?
Yeah, I'm always throwing people off their stride. You already asked me that, and I'm just like, I'm like a cat with a ball string. Like that.
Dude, I told you, I started with, quick story, I started as a martial arts instructor. As soon as I stood those kids up, the whole curriculum went out the window. So I'm used to improvising, man.
Let the spirit flow. So anyway, all of you can see this down here, author and musician Layne Ihde. I know my last name, my first name is kind of weird too, but LayneIhde.com. That's going to be your number one landing point. That's got my website, and it has links to all my socials and everything. But if you go on YouTube, because YouTube links are always so long with a bunch of gobbledygook at the end. Thank you very much, Fred, for putting that up there. If you go to YouTube, search Pippin the Cat. I thought that was the easiest way to brand it. It's Pippin the Cat. It's not any of the book titles. It's appropriate regardless of how many books come out. If you search Pippin the Cat, all of that material on that channel has been vetted. It's actually been accepted by the YouTube Kids app, which is, any of you parents out there know, you can set your kid loose on YouTube on the Kids app, and it's been verified safe. And so there's a bunch of videos on there. There's more coming soon. I'm going to be doing a DIY video, creating something cool that happens in this book. I'm not going to tell you what happens because I want you to go out and buy it. There's something cool that happens at the end where Pippin and I are going to do a video. We're working with my illustrator, Linda Pierce, outside of Boston. She's kind of sharpening her animation skills. I'd love to do some little cartoon and actual TV webisode series with Pippin. So be sure to go back to the YouTube and hit that. You can find me on YouTube by putting my name in. And then if you're on Insta, my Insta is LayneI7. Layne, my first name, Layne, I, the first initial of my last name, and the number 7. LayneI7. So you can get me on Instagram too. I know it's amazing. Most people under about 32, they're almost exclusively on Insta. So, and there's a lot of young moms and dads out there in the 22 to 32 range. They're only using Instagram. So I know that I have to use that as well. So Fred, thank you so much for putting that up there. That helps people visually see.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's why I love this platform. So cool, man. I love it, dude. This is so cool. I'm excited for this web series. I'm excited for everything you're doing. I'm like, this is such a cool Thanks, stuff. Man. And your book, where can people buy that on Amazon, or is there a better place?
Yeah, Amazon is easy. Barnes and Noble is easy. Walmart, Target. Now, I'm not gonna lie. If you you got my web or thing up here. I'm not gonna lie. Going to my website and buying the book directly from me is gonna give the most to me and support me, because companies like Barnes and Noble and Amazon, they require publishers to sell them at a deep, deep discount so they can charge super low, but then the author doesn't get as many royalties. So I don't care where you get it. I'd love for you to get it and just follow the adventures of Pippin. But if you want to go to my website, there's a web store there. I've got hoodies, t-shirts, a backpack, a cool beanie. Probably should have worn my beanie today so you could see it. But there's even a puppet that you can get from an Etsy store. So LayneIhde.com, you can get 2 copies of each of those books, and hopefully more down the road.
I'm excited. I love it. I'm going to your website. I'm definitely buying that puppet. That sounds like fun stuff.
Thanks.
I love it, dude. Layne Ihde, everybody. This has been amazing, dude. Thank you so much for being here. This is so much fun.
Thank you, Fred.
I got to go pick up a copy of your book because this just sounds like it's going to be so cool. And I'm definitely following you from now on because I got to see what cool stuff you got going on.
I appreciate it.
You got it, brother. Until next time, everybody, we will see you again very soon. See you, everybody.